She sat quietly on that bus in Montgomery, Alabama, her hands gripping the worn leather of the seat, her mind a storm of thoughts as the summer heat pressed down on the city around her. The hum of the engine and the shuffle of feet were the soundtrack of a world that had told her for too long that she was less than that. Her skin, the very color of her life, made her invisible in the eyes of some and less than human in the eyes of others. But Rosa Parks was not invisible. She was seen, she was strong, she was tired, but she was ready to stand in a way that would change history forever. That morning she had walked to the bus stop, her mind focused not on the injustice that surrounded her, but on the simple act of going to work, to live her life with dignity, to care for her family, to be herself. But the moment the driver demanded that she give up her seat for a white passenger, a fire ignited within her, a quiet fire, a determination that had been kindling in her heart for years. And in that moment she refused to move. She refused to bow to a system that had told her for decades that she must exist in the shadows. She refused to accept that her worth could be measured by the color of her skin. The bus became a stage for courage, the other passengers unaware that they were witnessing history in the making. The driver shouted words meant to intimidate, meant to break her spirit. But Rosa held fast, her eyes steady, her back straight, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and resolve. The arrest that followed was not the end, but the beginning. The chains of injustice that had bound so many for so long were rattled by the strength of one woman. The courthouse steps became a symbol of a larger struggle, a struggle that had been brewing in the hearts of countless men and women across the South who longed for equality, who dreamed of freedom, who imagined a world where their children could walk without fear in the streets of their own neighborhoods. Rosa Parks did not act alone. Her courage was a spark in a tinderbox, a moment that ignited the Montgomery bus boycott, a movement that would last over a year and test the resolve of a community determined to reclaim their dignity. Every morning the streets of Montgomery felt different, the air charged with anticipation and hope and fear and uncertainty as people walked miles to work, as families rearranged their lives, as leaders emerged from the shadows to organize meetings, to strategize, to keep spirits high and keep faith alive. Rosa watched from her small home as the world shifted around her. She knew the boycott was more than just refusing to ride the bus. It was a statement of humanity, a declaration that injustice would no longer be tolerated, that the quiet dignity of ordinary people could shake the foundations of a city, of a state, of a nation. And each day brought new challenges, threats of violence, economic pressures, attempts to break the spirit of those who dared to stand tall. But the people of Montgomery endured. Their faith in justice, their belief in a better world, their love for one another became the mortar that held the movement together. And through it all, Rosa Parks remained a symbol not just of resistance, but of the quiet courage that resides within every human heart. The courage to say enough, the courage to claim your place in the world, the courage to believe that change is possible even when the odds are stacked high against you. Her name became a whisper on the lips of children who would grow up believing that they too could stand against injustice. Her story traveled beyond the streets of Montgomery, beyond the state of Alabama, beyond the borders of the United States. It became a beacon for all those who longed for freedom and equality. The civil rights movement gained momentum, and leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. emerged from the struggle to guide a nation toward the light of justice. Through marches, through speeches, through acts of nonviolent resistance. She never sought fame or glory, but she understood the power of her presence, the weight of her example, the quiet revolution that can take place when one person refuses to accept a life of oppression. And history remembers her not just as the woman who refused to give up her seat, but as a symbol of resilience, of courage, of hope, of the enduring human spirit. And when we think of her, when we tell her story, we feel the fire that burned in her heart, the same fire that can burn in ours, the fire that says, I will not be silenced, I will not be invisible, I will stand, I will endure, I will act. And that fire changed the world. It changed the lives of millions. It reminded humanity that justice is not given, it is claimed. It reminded us that the actions of one person can awaken the conscience of a nation, that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary change, that history is not only made by kings and presidents, but by the quiet courage of those who refuse to accept injustice. And as the sun sets over Montgomery, as the buses roll quietly down the streets, as the city hums with life, we remember Rosa Parks, the woman, the symbol, the spark, the reminder that within each of us lies the power to change the world, that the courage to stand for what is right is timeless, and that even in the face of fear, even in the presence of oppression, even when the world says no one can make a difference, one person can, one action can, one refusal can ignite. A movement can change a nation, can inspire generations, and her story lives on in every voice that rises against injustice, in every hand that reaches out to lift another, in every heart that believes that freedom, dignity, and equality are not just words but a promise worth fighting for. And so we sit with her on that bus, we feel her resolve, we hear the silent strength that radiates from her every movement, and we understand that bravery is not loud, it is not always recognized, it is quiet. It is steadfast, it is the choice to rise again and again against a world that insists you should not rise, and in that quiet bravery, we find hope, we find courage, we find the reminder that history bends toward justice not because it must, but because ordinary people like Rosa Parks refuse to allow it to bend away from it. They refuse to allow fear to dictate their lives. They refuse to let oppression define their existence. They stand, they endure, they act, and through their actions, they illuminate the path for all of humanity. And so the story continues, not just in history books, but in our hearts, in our communities, in the choices we make, and the voices we raise, in the knowledge that we too can make a difference, that we too can be brave, that we too can sit with courage and change the world, one act, one moment, one refusal at a time.